In 2018, Jordan Peterson published a book called 12 Rules for Life. Today, we're going to talk about rule number 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. This rule completely changed my life. I used to have depression, real depression. I used to have social anxiety. I used to have low self-esteem, and I suffered from several physical ailments as well, like undermethylation and adrenal fatigue and other things like that. But since I started thinking about myself, my life, from this point of view of treating yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, my life started changing. And of course, my life is not perfect by any means right now, but if you compare my life right now, where I'm happy most of the time, I am satisfied with my financial and my relationships. And so if you are trying to improve your life, this is what I recommend you start with. There are 12 rules, and all of them are good, and most of them I follow. I discovered them on my own, so I think it's a great service that Jordan Peterson published his book so that people don't have to figure out it on their own, like I had to do. But for me, everything started with this rule. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. And I discovered it from a bit different perspective. I learned about this rule as treat yourself as you would treat your own child. So you see, the phrasing is a little different, and I was thinking that my definition, the one I used, is with a child, is easier to understand, for me at least. Like, you are responsible for helping. What does it mean? But now, after having considered this thought for a while, I'm thinking that responsibility is a great addition to this. I will tell you why later, okay? So now quickly, I will tell you all 12 rules before we start, and then they will kind of combine into one rule. So this is important, okay? So the rules are, number 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Number 2, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Number 3, make friends with people who want the best for you. Next, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Next, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Next, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Next, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Next, assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Next, be precise in your speech. Next, do not bother children when they are skateboarding. And the last one, pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. And why I decided to read all of these rules for you is because I kind of like this rule number 9. Wait, 9? No, 10, sorry. Be precise in your speech. And this is important because this quote we are talking about today is actually very precise. So in my case, I used treat yourself as your own child, right? And so for me, naturally, I understand that you would have to treat your child with a respect, wishing them all the best, at the same time, treating them in the way that is not too kind, so there is a balance, right? When the child says, Daddy, I want a candy, well, do you give them the candy or no? Depending on the situation, right? So it's not always, you give them everything, but then at the same time, you can sometimes do it. And so in my case, I had a good understanding what treating your child is like, but Peterson, he says that you have to be precise, and I believe this rule is a very good example of that. Someone you're responsible for helping. And so we will start today with the responsible part, okay? I've recorded a video about this. If you want to know more about this, just watch my video about Jocko Willink, and basically just study Jocko, because he is a great mind and his message is great. His message is very necessary for many men who are struggling in their life, okay? And his message basically circles around control and ownership of your own life. So basically this is kind of the same idea. Control, responsibility, and ownership. These are all the same kind of parts of the same, activity, so to speak, your attitude, your way of thinking. Okay, when you get up in the morning, you're like, oh, this bed is not mine, I'm gonna just disregard it and not clean up, right? Or no, you're like, this is my bed, this is my room, I'm gonna keep it clean because this is my responsibility, I own this. So that thing has to reflect how I feel about the world. If you feel about the world like, nah, it doesn't matter, whatever, well, of course it will be whatever in your room. So in my case, I clean my bed every day, but I don't clean everything every day, you see? So it really depends on your thinking. And what I found is that a messy room is usually, in my case, a reflection of a messy mind. And so in my case, sometimes I clean, my mind gets clearer, and as I look in my room sometimes, I'm like, oh my God, this is such a freaking mess. And then I realize that my mind is also a freaking mess at the same time. So usually your world reflects your mind. Anyway, so now let's talk about this control. If you want to improve your life, you have to regain control of your life. Of course, you don't control the world, but you control yourself. And your personality, your person, consists of two parts, right? The body and the mind. In the olden times, they would say the soul and the body, but right now we are saying the mind and the body, okay? And so if you want to change your life, you have to regain control. And if you want to regain control, you should start with yourself. Do you control yourself? Because if you can control yourself, then you will be able to move in the world. It's like, you can think of it as a paralyzed person, They don't have control over some parts of their body. And so that's why they are not able to, let's say, move in the world. Let's say if you are paralyzed down the waist, well, you can't just go get up and run, right? Well, so that's the same thing that could be happening in your life. Maybe you don't have control over yourself. So what hope is there for you to then get up and move your life into the direction that you want? It's impossible. You will have to use a wheelchair, and wheelchair in this analogy would be other people. So it might not happen. What if you don't have the people? Some people, they will have this kind of lucky break. And I believe, let's say Elon Musk, okay? If you've ever listened to Elon Musk, you know that he would not be a good salesperson, right? And but how he has achieved his, fame and fortune is because he always had people around him who would help him. And so one of the great examples is, if you look at his earlier, career, his business ventures, he was never alone. He had a brother, and his brother would be the salesperson because his brother was good at that, and Elon would be the engineer person. And so you see, that's why it worked really well. Just like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Wozniak was the engineer, and Jobs was the salesperson. He was the face, and Wozniak was the brains, so to speak. You see? And so my point is, for each of them, the other person was the wheelchair. So in this situation, if you don't have that person, well, then you have to be your own wheelchair. And so you will have to, control yourself at the very minimum, okay? And this is what happened to me. I started doing daily exercises, and what I found is that, your mind gets much clearer, okay? And you are able to control your thoughts. Any distractions don't bother you so much. You feel better physically, you have more energy, you feel higher self-esteem because you now look better, or at least you feel better. Because I think we humans, we underestimate how differently it feels when you are fit, or at least when you're exercising. You're like, oh my God, I couldn't do this 1 week ago, now I can. This is why children are so, confident in their abilities, because they are growing and they are improving. Like my son, for example, he goes to this gym class. And so before, he used to not being able to do one exercise on the bar, and there is like a very, specific exercise in Japan that I couldn't find a translation in English. Basically, you jump and your legs have to go over the bar, and so basically you flip. And he couldn't do that before. And now he can. And so yesterday he was like, Daddy, I could do this. Oh my God, and I didn't need any help. And that's why children, that's how they build, the sense of self-worth and self-discipline and self-respect, I guess, and self-esteem. And so that's how you will feel. When you start doing something you couldn't do a week ago and a month ago, you will be like, hell yeah, I can do anything. And so by changing your body, you will then start changing your mind, okay? And so in my case, the best exercises are daily, and B, the ones that don't require you anything. So for example, in my case, you can start with calisthenics. All you need is a mat if you want. If you don't want, no mat is okay. So if it's like a hard floor, that's all you need. Push-ups, pull-ups, crunches, all of them you can do. Well, okay, pull-ups maybe no, but push-ups, yes. Crunches, yes. Squats, yes. All of them you can do without any equipment. You can do them within 5 minutes. And so if you do that every day, you will start seeing improvement, maybe not in how you look, but at least in how you feel. And that how you feel will start changing how you also think, okay? Next, sleep. Of course, I don't need to mention that sleep is more important than food. You know that humans can survive without food longer than they can survive without sleep. So if you are eating, well, then you should be sleeping too, as much as you need. If you're eating enough, then sleep enough too. And if you have a choice between sleeping and eating, I would choose sleeping because it's more important. You will die without sleeping much sooner than you will die without eating, okay? Anyway, next. And now let's talk about how to change your mind. So we are talking about the body, right? About control over your body, right? So at least that nobody can take that away from you, right? And nobody can stop you from doing that. Next. And even if you are afraid of somebody, like this is so, I'm trying to imagine this extreme situation where you would be embarrassed to exercise at home. Well, then do squats. Nobody will, like, do 10 squats somewhere where nobody can see you. I don't know, in a shower if you need. Well, actually, wait. Just make sure it's safe, okay? That sounds very dangerous. My shower is okay, I could do that, but I don't know about your shower. So be careful, don't hurt yourself, but you don't have to do it where people will see you, okay? That's my point. Next, I would like to talk about your mind. So we are talking, you have to control your body, yes. Next, you have to control your mind as well, okay? So this is where I believe the words treat yourself come into play. So the rule is treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, right? So we talked about responsibility, which is the control of your life, right? Now let's talk about treating yourself. What does it mean? It means that you have to change your inner voice, because treating yourself means usually that your choices have to be different, right? Your mental choices. And your mental choices often change if you change how you talk to yourself. So your inner voice. Now let's talk about how to change it. Now, in my case, again, there are so many ways to do that. But what helped me, and again, this is just my perspective. If you have any opinions, please share them. If you have something to add, or if you disagree, please comment. Let's talk about this, okay? But what worked for me is this. Number one, you try to be more mindful. Again, for me, I never had this problem, but I know that some people don't realize what they are thinking. And so if you think about what you're thinking, you just develop a habit of stopping for 5 seconds and paying attention to what's happening inside of your mind, okay? What are you talking about to yourself, right? And so in my case, I stop when I feel these two things. Number one, this is weird. Number two, this feels wrong. So when I experience something, or I hear something, or I see something, and I have this feeling, whoa, this is weird, or whoa, this is wrong, it means that your mind is doing something that doesn't match the reality, okay? And when that happens, maybe your mind is doing something wrong. Maybe there is some error in your computation, in your mind, okay? For example, somebody says, hey, good job. And you're like, shut up. I don't need your praise. And you're like, well, that's not a reasonable response, right? Or somebody says, good job. And you're like, no, it's okay. Doesn't matter. That's not a reasonable response. If you did a good job, then you say, thank you. Yes, I will do my best next time too. You know. So my point is, if your response to the reality it feels off, you have to acknowledge this, and you have to stop and think about that. You don't have to stop everything you do, because let's say there is a social interaction, and so you can't just say, okay, everybody, wait, please, I need to think about. No, you just remember this, and then whenever you have time, you analyze it. And how you analyze it is by doing this, A, B, C, D, okay? A, activating event, is that you have to understand what caused your reaction that didn't match the event, okay? Like in this case, somebody says, good job, okay? Then that's an activating event, okay? Next, belief, A-B, belief. Belief is what caused you, what belief about your life or what way of thinking about your life produced that response, okay? So let's say you say, shut up, and what caused it, okay? What belief or why did you react that way? You have to understand what pattern of thought or belief is causing that. Next, if you understand that, then you can think about, and by the way, these can take a really long time. This can be days, in some cases weeks. And it's okay if you can't find it immediately. Just keep it in the back of your mind and think about this longer and longer, because at some point you will find the answer. And next is consequences. You have to think about not changing this belief. For example, what does it cause? In this case, somebody says, good job, and you're like, shut up, yeah, I know. And then you, like, if I don't change this belief, what's going to happen? And then you analyze the consequences of keeping this belief, okay? And then the last one is dispute. And so in this case, I actually had a real situation, okay? And you're like, oh, who says shut up to good job? Well, let me tell you a story. I had a coworker, and we of course, as we were teachers and we were in a classroom, and once he wanted to borrow my audio cord, okay? And then I found out that he had birthday coming up. And so I bought a cord for him. It was just $1, so not a big expense. And so on his birthday, I give him a cord, and he's like, I don't need this. Like, I don't need your help. I can do it by myself. I can buy anything I want. I'm like, what? So his reaction to my gift, birthday present, was, I don't need this. I can buy it by myself, you know. I don't need your help like that. I don't need the petty gifts or something like that. And I'm like, okay, give it back if you don't want. This is my present for you. I know you need it. So this is real. It's not my imagination. This happened to me, this kind of overreaction, right? And so maybe in his belief, it was, if somebody gives me something, it means I'm not able to get it myself, therefore I'm not worthy, therefore maybe they don't respect me, okay? And so of course that's a bad feeling, right? And so that's my point. This is a weird situation, and you know, if he wanted to, he would be like, okay, stop. This is weird. I am weird. Whatever I'm thinking is not right, right? And so then this is the belief, right? And then dispute. You found the belief, you found the consequences, that if you don't change this belief, people will stop giving you gifts, people will stop caring about you, and blah, 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 okay? Next is dispute. Dispute is, does this really mean that they don't respect you? Does this really mean that you can't get it by yourself? Is this a fact? No, it's not a fact. So then you can dispute this belief, and then you can kind of get out from this pattern of thinking, okay? And that's basically how you change your inner voice, A, B, C, D. You find the activating event that's weird or wrong. Belief, you find the belief that is causing this. Wait, the activating event is your reaction to the... Sorry. So you find the activating event that causes that belief to make you react in the wrong way, okay? That's what I was trying to say. Next, the consequences, you analyze the consequences of this belief, and then you dispute this belief. And so when you start doing that, then this is how you change how you treat yourself, okay? So this is the mechanism. So Jordan Peterson says, treat yourself like someone responsible. Well, how do you treat yourself? Well, that's how you do it. This is the step-by-step, actual, practical, course of action, okay? And now let's go back to the control. So now imagine, so far we've talked about being responsible, right? So you take control over your physical body. Now you take control over your mental processes, right? By A, B, C, D, how you treat yourself. And next, so now you're starting to change this paralysis. Now you're starting to move in the world. You escape the wheelchair, the crutches, you get up basically. And now you are able to move in the world, right? And so now you're able to change your life as a whole, right? So you change yourself, then your life will change. But it doesn't happen automatically. You have to learn problem-solving patterns or frameworks or skills, okay? Because if you don't solve any problems in the world, well then A, you will not be useful to the society, but B, you will not solve your own problems, right? And so even if you are so capable and great and so self-conscious and fit, but if you can't do jack shit in your life, well then your life is not going to be better. So now let's talk about how to now you have control of yourself, now how to change your life, okay? And in my case, this is what I found helps. There are many problem-solving frameworks. What I found works for me is MIST, M-I-S-T. M, materials, I, information, S, skills, T, tools. So whatever problem you have in life, let's say you don't make enough money, or your relationships suck, or your health is, crap. So then you need to know, for example, you need to have materials, information, skills, and tools, then you can solve almost any problem. So what do I mean by that? Materials can be physical materials, right? Let's talk about supplements, okay? Health. So let's say something is broken about your health. Let's say you're depressed for no reason, right? Or you feel depressed in winter. Well, then you need vitamin D. Duh, that's the material. You don't need any tools. You don't need any skills. You just need information about how much to take, when to take it, and you need the materials, vitamin D. If you don't have vitamin D, then you have to obtain materials of money. Then you spend the money and get vitamin D, and so therefore you improve your health. Understand? So in almost all problems in the world have these 4 points: materials, information, skills, and tools. And honestly, if you have any other ideas, please share them, because I have not been able to find any problem that would require anything else apart from information, skills, tools, and materials. Okay? So next, imagine you want to start a podcast. Materials, you need time, you need electricity, or in this case money. Maybe you need a microphone. Microphone would be a tool that you can get with materials, e.a. money. Okay, so, and the skills. Skills is probably the most important point, because if you can't talk well, then how are you gonna talk well? And as you can see, I still struggle with this, although I've been doing it for one month. But imagine my skills, let's say 1 year later. That's why I don't get really discouraged, because I know that I will improve later, and so I am gaining skills. Maybe I suck right now, but I am getting better and better and better. Maybe not 1% per day, but I am getting slightly better every day. Okay, and so anyway, my point is, if you want to change anything about your life, look for what materials you need, what information you need, what skills you need, what tools you need. In most cases, I would say that something that doesn't really require physical skills, like I told you about podcast, right? So it's physical activity, you're talking, right? So anything that doesn't require that, you can solve it by information and skills. And you could kind of argue that skills is application of the information. So let's say you know how to talk, but now you need to learn how to talk. Okay, or you know how to think, that's the information. Now you need to learn how to think. But in my case, I believe this is important to separate the two, so that you don't confuse, oh, now I know, now I can do it. No, you know it, but you still can't do it because you haven't practiced. You haven't got the skills, okay? And so that's it for me for today. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, okay? Helping is the MIST, the problem solving. That's how you help yourself. Being responsible means take control of your life. And treating yourself is what you say to yourself, how you behave towards yourself. Okay? And that's it. This, I believe, is one of the biggest, most important changes you can do in your life. If you find that your life sucks in some way, that's how you can change it. I hope it helps. If it does, subscribe. I will see you next time.